Good morning. Oh, I think we need some more coffee. Can we get some coffee around here? Too many margaritas last night, maybe. I heard some stories out in the lobby that I won't repeat. Maybe some beer pong was happening. I'm not really sure what it was, but well, we're going to try to get the energy up this morning. And I want to start by talking about things that I think we all want. We all want to grow our business. Yes? Raise your hands. Everybody want to grow their business? Great. How about branding? I mean, I'm a marketing guy. We want to grow our brand. We want to be more better known in the industries and the markets that we serve. Anybody raise their hand if they're interested in growing their brand? Okay. Oh, not everybody. Okay. But most of you want to grow. You want to grow something, right? But here's the problem. Here's the trick. We live in a world that's being radically disrupted. And we all hear the word and we know that there's disruption happening, and we look at the world and we see change happening, but maybe we don't think that that change really applies to us. And so I want to show you and try to make you feel in your gut some of that disruption and some of that change, and why I believe we need to start to encourage and support and nurture what I call champion leadership in today's business world. So here's a stat. In the last 15 years, more than half of the Fortune 500 companies have completely disappeared. Completely disappeared. Now maybe you're saying, oh, I'm not a Fortune 500 company. But the rate of disruption, the rate of change, and the rate of failure that's happening to companies is happening radically faster than it used to. The life expectancy of a company was 75 years back in 1955. Today, it's 15 years. 15 years. So if you started your company later than 2003, you're one of the half, you're 50% of the companies that are still around today. So again, I can tell you that all day long, and maybe you understand that in your brain, but I want to show you, I want you to feel that in your gut. So I'm going to talk about my greatest enterprise. These are my children. And my oldest is actually 15 years old. And we were celebrating her 15th birthday this year, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. And on that day, I received an email from LinkedIn. And that was pretty cool. I'm like, LinkedIn said, hey, happy birthday to us. We're 15 years old. I thought that's pretty cool. The world's oldest social media network, you can see the age of LinkedIn on the face of my oldest daughter, also 15, born on the same day, if you will, as the day that LinkedIn was founded. So then I started looking at my other kids. I thought, maybe there's a connection with them as well. And sure enough, you probably see where I'm going with this. Daughter number 2 was born just 1 week apart from the official founding of Facebook, the world's most popular social media network. So you can see the age of Facebook on the face of my 12-year-old daughter there, born on March 14th. So then I looked at my son, who just turned 10 back in October, and by 2 weeks he shares a birthday just about with the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone. The iPhone X came out to support the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone. So you can see the age of mobile technology on the face of my 10-year-old son. Now, where am I going to go with this one? So number 4, my wife and I, we call it God's plan, not our plan. I don't know if you've heard that term before. Oops is another way to say it, but I don't know how it happened, but here he is, and we love him to death, of course. And yes, sure enough, he shares a birthday with Snapchat. I'm not sure it really fits into my story, but I needed to find a way to use a Snapchat filter, because I think in today's world, we're actually still trying to figure Snapchat out. The point of this all is that 15 years ago, these 4 companies didn't exist. 15 years ago, YouTube didn't exist. Think about that for just one moment. And then apply that to the business and the markets that you serve. The rate of disruption, the rate of change, the innovators and the disruptors are happening way faster than we realize. Today, we're all connected. We're all the most important source of information for each other. And that has radically changed the way that we view the brands that we work with, the companies we buy from, and the companies that we work for. How many of you use any one of these companies? Starbucks, Netflix, Amazon, right? Almost all of us use at least one of these. These are the kinds of experiences that we are expecting from every brand that we buy from every company we do business with. We expect a Starbucks, a Netflix, or an Amazon-like experience. This is what your messaging is competing with. This is the noise that you're competing with. We are watching videos of cats wearing shark costumes, sitting on a Roomba chasing a duck. That's the world that you have to try to interrupt with the messaging and the content that you create as a business. We live in this experience economy where customers expect amazing experiences from the brands that they use, the brands that we use. And your employees expect amazing experiences, amazing talent experiences with the companies that we work for. Brand, the term brand, the very meaning of brand, means very little in today's world. So this is Tina Sharkey. So Tina is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Brandless. And I'll just briefly give you kind of her career trajectory. She was actually the first head of marketing for online shopping network QVC, which is right down the street from me outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She then became, and was the co-founder of iVillage, which was bought by NBC. She then was the first head of digital for Sesame Street. She started Baby Center, which was then bought by Johnson & Johnson, before founding Brandless. And this is why she started Brandless. She had kids. And she went to the grocery store. And if you have kids, and you've been to the grocery store, or you can imagine what it's like to take kids to the grocery store, it's not a fun experience. And so she started Brandless. One big mission, anything you need for just $3. There's no brand, it's just a great high quality product for $3. But their corporate mission is people over brand. The very meaning of brand has dramatically changed in a relatively short period of time. We need to start thinking about how we put people over brand. How do you put people over brand? Nielsen says that 73% of us wouldn't care if the products that we use disappeared completely. Not all products, not all brands, the products we use. We don't care if they disappear because we know there's another one. This is Kmart. Kmart's big idea after suffering some dramatic losses in their retail location was, no one wants to come to our stores, so maybe we should start talking about, what the other guys are doing, free shipping and stuff like that. So let's create an ad that talks about how you can ship stuff for free. You can even ship your pants.
Ship my pants? Right here? Ship my pants for free. You can ship your pants? Right here. You hear that? I can ship my pants for free.
Wow, I just made ship my pants.
Yeah, ship your pants. Really, you can ship your pants too.
I can't wait to ship my pants now.
I can't ship my pants. Very convenient.
I just shipped my divorce.
I just shipped my 90. I just shipped my lead. We can't have much for our store. We'll find it at Kmart.com.
Do people ship their pants from Kmart? No, we don't. Kmart continued to see dramatic losses and declines despite their creative and very funny advertising. Stores are closing, and to continue the potty humor, they're having a lot of blowouts. Sorry, I had to do it. It's not funny though, right? Because brand is more than what we do. It's not about shipping our pants. It's about the experiences that we give the customers that we serve. It's not about what you do. Brand is all about why you do it. It's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. Let's talk about the nature of work. The idea of work is changing dramatically. In just a relatively short period of time, the way that we view the relationship that we have between employees and employers has dramatically changed in the exact same way and for the exact same reasons as why we have different experiences and expectations with the companies that we buy from. By 2025, 1 in 3 of our jobs will be replaced by robots. 33% of us today are freelancers like me. It'll be 50% in just about 13 years. And 34 million Americans work from home. By 2025, that'll be just short of half of us. 43% of us will work from home. So the very nature of work is changing dramatically. Are we happy? Are your customers, employees happy? No. According to Gallup, just under a third of us say we're engaged. More than half of us report that we're disengaged. 17% of us say that we're actively disengaged. I'm not sure what that means, but I think it means we show up late. I think it means we're actively sabotaging the equipment and the objectives of the companies that we work for. We're stealing pencils. That's what we're doing, 17% of us. Actively disengaged from the companies that we work with. Your employees are the ones who deliver the customer experiences, those amazing expectations that your customers have. It's your employees. You are delivering the customer experience that your customers are expecting. But none of us are happy. According to a survey of executives by outsourcing firm Catalant, executives don't look to outsourcing to save them time or money. Their number one goal is growth and innovation. Yes, it may save them time and money, but their number one goal, executives' number one goal in looking at outsourcing is to grow and to become more innovative in the industries and the markets they serve. Now, what do you say? What do you say that you do? And I looked at a bunch of your websites, and I'm not going to call anyone out by name, but you largely talk about what you do, benefits and payroll, right? Hey, give it to me. We'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about it. Sorry, I'm from Philly. My accent had to come out there somewhere. But these are some of the things that you say. Outsource your HR because you spend too much time on administration. We're the leading provider of human resources outsourcing. We are a PEO for X million people. We free you from the burden of administrative tasks. And this is my favorite one. HR solutions with exceptional follow-through. That company is not here, by the way. I made sure of that. But what's the opposite of that? Like no follow-through or terrible follow-through, right? So we talk about what we do, not why we do it. Benefits and payroll is what you do, but it's not why you're doing it. It's not the thing that serves your customers the most. Now, what if we started talking about the one thing that your customers were looking for? The one challenge that they're feeling more than any other. And that's this war, this battle for both customers and talented employees. Your customers are waging a war for talent and customers. And you have an opportunity to solve that problem. HR is becoming way more important and way more strategic in today's disrupted world than it used to be. In fact, I believe HR is the key to growth. And I'm a former sales guy, a former marketing guy. And I'm looking to you and your industry. I believe you have the key to help the world to start to figure out how do we get happy and engaged employees to deliver amazing customer experiences so that our companies can grow. That's the mission. So what if you started telling that story? What if you started telling the story of why you do what you do? So I want to start with somebody who's done that. This is Xenium HR, founded 20 years ago just outside of Portland. And I talked to Ann Donovan, who's their president. And she said, we had a great culture, we have a growing business, but we really wanted to create an integrated talent experience. And so we started this program internally called Excite, Xenium Culture Integration Team Enhancement. They grabbed their team together, they grabbed their employees, they did surveys, they did brainstorming sessions, they did all kinds of conversations, and they tried to figure out how do we create an integrated talent experience for you, our employees? Because we want to learn how to do that with you before we start to figure out if we should do that with our own customers. And so they did things like redefine their mission statement. And I love this mission statement, to develop great employers. Isn't that true for all of you? Isn't this why you do what you do? Yes, benefits and payroll and risk mitigation and compliance and retirement solutions are all part of this. But those are all just ingredients, as Jonathan said, to build this meal that your customers are looking for to become a great employer, to become an employer of choice. So they developed this mission. They created this manifesto, and I normally would never read from a slide, but I love this manifesto that Ann shared with me. Everyone works, but not everyone loves their work. And that's why we're here to change the game. We help our clients grow. That's why they do what they do. We grow their people, their capabilities, their business, and we do it by creating workplaces where employers and employees can make a difference. Better culture, shared values, real results. These are the things we can bring to the table because with the right environment, employers and employees thrive. Managers become inspired leaders. Employees excel in their jobs. Businesses continue to grow. This is why we're transforming the workplace for employees, for employers, for you. Just take a second to think about that. Doesn't that apply to every one of your businesses? They celebrate their people on their website. They wrote a mission statement for their people. Our people are our greatest gifts. We are passionate and purposeful about our work, and we encourage entrepreneurial thinking and leadership at every level of our organization. They then took the insights that they gained from that Excite project, and then they created the services that they're now offering, HR services and solutions that talk about the integrated talent experience for their customers. Now I asked Ann, well, what about the results? Well, they have a 90%, better than 90% retention rate, and they're seeing HR consulting business as the driver of growth for their PEO. HR consulting services. They transformed internally, created massive growth, and they're very happy, right? Wouldn't you be happy too if you could talk about your business the same way? Now, I love this gift because it kind of shows a baby going through every human emotion possible, from fear to sadness to pretty much happiness and elation. So Ann's not the only one. And so I talked to a bunch of folks in your industry, and I found the folks at Next Step and had a great conversation. I met Brian last night. Brian founded this firm in Norman, Oklahoma in 1997, and he did what many of you probably think of the way you think of yourself, a premier PEO organization in the industry and in the market that you serve. And their marketing reflected that. You conquer the world, we take care of the details, right? We can help you save time and money. Many PEOs, many of your companies message this same way. They use these stats. I found these stats on about 6 different of your websites. A PEO relationship is statistically proven to help your company grow. We can help you grow faster, reduce turnover, and help you to prevent going out of business, right? Talking about what you do. Is your company ready for healthcare reform? Ours is, right? So this is how they used to market and service and sell themselves to the industries that they serve, the markets they serve. So I talked to Tracy, who's their head of HR, and Adam, who I know is here, and Melissa, who I met last night as well, their chief operating officer. So HR, sales and marketing, and their head of operations. I had this conversation with them, and the quote that I loved from the conversation was, the heart of our business was always people, and we already had a great culture, but we weren't telling that story to our customers. So in 2017, they decided to make a change. They changed their mission statement to elevating the employee experience and enriching people's lives. This is why they do what they do. Elevate the employee experience and enrich people's lives. They defined, like the manifesto that we saw from Xenium, they defined what they believed in, their values, their ideals. We believe in answering the phone, smiling at strangers, and drinking good coffee. Technology that is powerful. Expertise, because the stuff that we do is complicated. And creating meaningful relationships with the people that we do business with, because that's what matters to them. They were telling the world what matters to them. It's why they do what they do. They use that in all their marketing communications, elevating the employee experience and enriching people's lives. They celebrate their team as well on their website. 90% of their management team, they're proud of the fact that 90% of their management team is female. And their net promoter score, their client satisfaction that drives retention, is higher than Apple and USAA, some of the highest NPS scores in the world. 86. So they're seeing great results. And now they're offering talent experience services as well and seeing massive growth in that market. They market themselves not on what they do, but on why they do it. And the team told me that Brian actually says this all the time. If you take care of people, they take care of the business. If you take care of your people, they will take care of your customers. Now, Brian and Ann are what I call champion leaders. Champion leaders are leaders that put people first, but it's not all about them, it's about their teams. They champion the great ideas from the teams below them, and the teams around them, and that drives innovation and growth for their companies. So I do have a secret to share. I wasn't sure if Jonathan was gonna say this in my bio, but yes, I've had 53 jobs in the course of my career. So I'll share just really briefly the background. I was 12 years old in 1983, so you can figure out how old I am. And I joined I made the 6th grade, my middle school basketball team. I was pretty excited. It's a big deal. We had a pretty good team. And this is what everybody was wearing back then. This is the 1983 Julius Erving Converse All-Stars. It's like white leather high tops, if you can believe that. They're back in style, by the way, just in case you're wondering. And I went to my parents and they said, yeah, you're the third of 4 children. Your dad works in a factory. I stay home. My mom stays home to take care of us kids. You need to go get a job if you want those Converse All-Stars. So I became a paper boy at the age of 12. And that was the first of what became 53 jobs. My shortest job ever was I actually worked at this Pizza Hut. I worked there for 4 hours. I walked in. They put me in a closet. This is a true story. They put me in a closet and they said, here's a VHS tape. You need to watch 4 hours of training videos and then you're a Pizza Hut employee. So I went into this dark closet that looked pretty much like this, and I'm 12 and I'm or 15 at this point, pretty scared of the dark and a little claustrophobic. I watched the 4 hours of videos, I walked out and I quit. Shortest job I ever had, 4 hours. In college, I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I picked people up. That's what you do when you work at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. When I graduated college, I went into sales, and then I became a marketer, became CMO for a couple of companies before I moved into executive advisory, client facing and speaking. And I looked back just a couple of years ago over these 53 jobs, and I started thinking, why did I have so many jobs? I have more jobs than anybody I know. If you've had more jobs, let me know, please. I just started thinking, why did I have so many jobs? Why was I unhappy in so many of those different situations? And so I started looking around, and I found this research that said that 80% of employees say they don't need their manager at all to do their job. Think about that for a second if you're a manager. 80% of employees say they don't need their manager to do their job. I read this book, The Service Profit Chain. Anybody read this book? It's about 20 years old now. I highly recommend it. And what these guys found was they did the research, and they found that companies with engaged employees are more productive, have higher customer retention, and significantly higher revenue growth. And what they found, the secret was that engaged employees create happy customers who drive shareholder value. Pretty simple connection. The employee experience drives everything. Jim Stengel, former CMO at P&G, wrote this book called Grow. His theory, his hypothesis was that companies based on ideals and values are the key to growth. He went and he found 50 companies who physically and externally and publicly showed that they valued their people and the values and ideals that they believed in as a company. And he tracked them in the Fortune 500 and the S&P 500. And what he found was that those companies had almost 300% higher growth. Companies focused on their people and on ideals. So I did my own research with 2,000 people around the country. I asked 3 questions. Are you happy? Is the company that you work for growing and innovative? And does your manager champion your ideas? Now, there's a lot of data here because it's hard to show 3 sort of data points on a chart, but the blue dots are happy people. And this is what statisticians call a linear model. In other words, my theory that managers that encourage the ideas of their employees tend to work at companies that are innovative, and when those 2 factors come together, that's when employees are happy. So you'll see most of the happy employees are up in the top right. Their managers encourage their ideas, they work at what they believe is an innovative company. There is no one who works at an innovative company with a manager that doesn't support their ideas. Not a single person shows up on the bottom right. And yeah, there's a few happy people that work at companies that aren't innovative, but their managers support their ideas. But there is no one that works at an innovative company without a manager that supports them and encourages new ideas. The point of this is that the key to growth and innovation, the key to happy employees, is managers who champion the ideas of their team. That was the result of this research. And so I piloted this 1-question survey with the team at Gillette, a company that's experiencing a lot of disruption. And we took 300 folks inside the organization in one department, and we asked them this 1 question over the course of 4 quarters, 1 year, asked them 4 times. And what we saw was that they had a 20-point increase in employee engagement. All we did was ask this survey question. And the reason we believe is that it encouraged employees to share ideas. It sent the message, hey, your ideas matter to us. But it also told managers something important. We didn't give any training to them. We just said, hey, it's important to us that we see you as encouraging employees' ideas, not just listening to them, but supporting them, building a business case, driving their ideas up through the organization. The 1-question survey can help you define the champion leaders inside your organizations or your customers' organizations. Now, this is the problem. This is what happens for most of us. We focus on what our company wants. And we know we need to get some customers to do that, and we need some employees that kind of enable the services that we offer. And so we talk about how great we are. That's just our natural instinct to do that. As I mentioned, your customers are being sort of interrupted with pictures of babies and kittens and puppies that we have to find our way to work through that. And how do we do that? The way that we do that is we bring these 3 things together. We bring what your company wants, what your customers want, and what your employees want together. I think everything in life can be explained in a Venn diagram. So this is my Venn diagram for this presentation. The key to the center of those 3 circles is empathy. We need organizations that have empathy about their customers and their employees to deliver on this promise. Now that sounds easy, right? Empathy is the key to align your business, your customers, and your employees. But how do we do that? What gets in the way? And this is what I believe gets in the way. It's this outdated model of organizational structure called the org chart. Boxes and lines that tell us who's above us, who's below us, who's beside us, who should tell us what to do every single day, right? Remember, 80% of employees don't believe they need their managers, and yet this is still the model that we use to define the places where we work. Now, this is the real org chart. And so you can see the real org chart is built with real people that have real relationships. And sometimes those relationships aren't always positive, right? We've got secret crushes and resentment and affairs. And, we've got a guy who's selling drugs to 5 people. And we've got kids, people whose kids are on the same football team and people who golf together, right? This is the real org chart because it's made up of real people. Maybe you all can see some of your workplaces here. I'm not going to ask for any hands. But here's the thing. We miss the most important person in our org chart. We miss the most important person. Where's the customer reflected in our org charts? Where's the customer in our org chart? And we do stuff. We try to drive innovation. We say employees matter to us. We do surveys and we do annual planning and goal setting, right? Maybe you do things like carrots and sticks to incentivize your employees, or you ask them to stick their ideas in a box. Some of you do that. We have brainstorming sessions and design thinking workshops, and maybe you do a weekly stand-up, right? We do lots of stuff to try to figure out what our employees are looking for. We have casual Fridays, and maybe you do, you go out into the woods and you do these sort of trust-building sessions with your team to build their camaraderie together. You might ask them to read a leadership book, and if you write a leadership book, you need to make your cover red for some reason. I don't know why. It has to be red. But these things just fall short. They don't actually drive a culture of empathy across our organizations. Champion leaders are the ones who use empathy to transform their organizations by putting employees and customers at the center. But what would that look like? What would that actually look like if you had to visualize it? And so I call it the bullseye. So if you put customers at the center of something, it looks like a bullseye. This is an organization where customers are at the center of everything that you do. Customers are the focus of everything that you do. And a bullseye creates a culture of empathy and teamwork around the organization. Everyone pulls together. Marketing, sales, customer service, operations, finance, products, HR. Legal's upside down because legal does not care about customers. So I put them, they're on here, but they're upside down. Maybe you're lucky if you have a lawyer that cares. I'm kidding. No, of course, everyone is focused on driving value for the customers that you serve, the why of your organization. Let's look at somebody who's done this. And you all know Steve Jobs and what he's done at Apple. And I love this quote from him: the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And Steve definitely did that with Apple. But what about the second venture that many of us forget about? Steve was the driving force behind the creative genius at Pixar Animated Studios. And so when he was kicked off the board of Apple in 1985, he bought Pixar from George Lucas, the Star Wars guy, for $10 million. And then they came out with Toy Story and a series of movies more successful than any Hollywood studio in the history of Hollywood studios. He sold Pixar to Disney. $7 billion. $7 billion. And we all know what happened with that happy marriage of Pixar and Disney, right? Frozen, the most successful animated movie of all time. Now, Ed Catmull is the president of Pixar, and he wrote this book called Creativity Inc. He wanted to share the secret of Pixar with business people, with professionals like us. How can you tap into the power of creativity for your organization? And this is the formula he developed. He said, hey, we write movies because we want to entertain audiences, but everybody's trying to do that. What we focused on was making the hero of our story our teams. They had a completely flat structure. They had this famous vetting process for their story ideas where they bring 50 people at a time into a room and they would talk about ideas for stories and plot lines. And anyone, including the janitor, could argue about whether they thought one was going to work or not. The hero of their story was their team. The hero of the team story was the audience. And so think about this for you. The hero of your story is the hero of your story, your team. Is the hero of your story, your team. Where is empathy reflected in your mission statement? Where is empathy reflected in your mission statement? Now, maybe you have an executive who looks like this. And how do you explain the importance of empathy to executives who don't have any? That's the real question, right? And the answer is, it's Jerry Maguire. We got to show them the money, right? So let me tell you a story just briefly about someone who's done that, who used the power of empathy to completely transform their organization. This is Amanda Todorowicz. She was hired as the head of content for the Cleveland Clinic. And at the time that she was hired, the Cleveland Clinic had like 4 doctors and 3 lawyers who had to review every piece of content that they created and published on their website. And most of the content that they created looked a lot like this. It talked about, hey, we deliver world-class care, and we're number 1 in heart care, and we've been number 1 in heart care for 13, 14, 15 years. They talked about what they did. And that was the kind of content that they created. And Amanda thought that they could do better than that. She believed in the power of empathy to bring together all of the amazing doctors and nurses and administrators that they have, to bring together the needs of the patients that they served, and to also serve the needs of the organization itself, the Cleveland Clinic. So she tried to explain to the executive team, utilizing this internal video called the Cleveland Clinic Empathy Series. She created 3 of them. If you could stand in someone else's shoes, would you treat them differently? So she created 3 of these videos internally at first, and I want to show you just a snippet of the first one. Okay, so you get the point, right? I don't want to start crying. And I get chills every time I see it. I've seen it probably 50 times. Because I think we can all see ourselves in some of those situations. Maybe unfortunately some of us have been in some of those situations. But Amanda created that video to convince their team that they are bigger than just being the number 1 provider of heart care for 13, 14, 15 years. And their CEO was so moved by this first video that they changed their mission statement from we have world-class to be the best provider of world-class care in the United States to improve people's lives, whether you could become a patient of ours or not. So they looked at not just providing great world-class care in the hospitals and in their health system, but also in the content that they created, in the messaging that they put out into the world. The way they communicated why they do what they do was all about empathy. That video has 40 million page views when Amanda put it out on YouTube. 40 million page views. Created this content hub, this content marketing platform for their website called Health Essentials to start sharing the things that they know and the ways that they help people. It went from 0 to 5 million monthly visitors. It now has more traffic than WebMD, is the number 11th most visited website in the world and the number 1 provider of healthcare information. Started at 0 5 years ago. They only publish 3 articles a week. This is a view of the number of shares that some of their content gets. And you can see this, this top article has 65,000 social media shares. That's more than almost every one of your corporate websites combined. One article, 65,000 people shared that piece of content. They're creating content that competes with the cat on a Roomba chasing a duck. It's that popular and that successful. I try to talk about bacon every conversation I can. They created an article about bacon. They created an article about being sleep drunk. This was me last night. I woke up in my hotel. Wait, where am I? I'm not really sure. It's a real thing, being sleep drunk. Yes, you really can suffer from a broken heart. It's called broken heart syndrome. And they answered the most important question in the history of humanity. What does the color of your pee say about you? Yes, it's true. It's an infographic. Here it is, in case you're wondering. Now remember, this was an organization that needed 3 doctors and 5 lawyers and 6 months to create any piece of content, and they now have an infographic about the color of urine. By the way, if your urine looks like this, get yourself to a hospital right away. But right, just imagine the change that required, the transformation that this required internally at Cleveland Clinic. And this website gets so much traffic, they have a little ad at the bottom. It says, hey, we have advertising just to support the mission of our company, to improve people's lives, whether they could become a patient of ours or not. And that ad generates 7 figures in advertising revenue. It's a profit center for their company, profit center for Cleveland Clinic. Now, Amanda says her CEO is very difficult to present to, but when she showed him these results, he was speechless. He said, wow, and just said, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Amanda is a champion leader. She sold the power of empathy across the organization, not by starting with the results, but by starting with why it's important to put the patient at the center of everything that they do and to use stories to build empathy across the entire organization. So yes, we're all high-fiving her, right? We feel pretty good about what Amanda's doing. But how do we get everyone on board? Maybe you can get your executive on board, but how do you get sales and marketing and HR and operations and finance and even legal on board? So I have one more story that I want to tell you about my friend Jason. Jason was the first marketing employee at Marketo, marketing automation company. He's also a rock and roll photographer. He's a California guy, and he loves 80s hair band music. So he wrote this book marrying his 2 passions of marketing and rock and roll called Welcome to the Funnel, which is a joke about marketing and Guns N' Roses. But anyway, he combined his 2 passions and shared that with the world. And because of the success that he saw from sharing what he knows and what he loves, he was hired as the what he calls his dream job as the global head of content marketing for LinkedIn, right? So I'm making this kind of come full circle to where I started. Global head of content marketing for LinkedIn. And Jason believed in the power of empathy. He believed in creating this customer-centered organization. But what he found was that when you focus on your customers, you realize you need to get everyone around you on board. You need to get your team on board. Jason did this research and he was looking at what are the questions that our customers are asking? What are the questions that they're asking and how can I help answer those questions? And he realized he couldn't do it alone. And he looked around the organization and he realized they have so many smart people inside LinkedIn. How do I help them tell their stories, share their passion and their expertise with the customers that we're trying to reach? And so he realized that when he said, hey, I want you and I want you to do it, they said no. Because you can't make customers, you can't make employees care about your customers or your company. You can't make people care about your company. You have to show them what's in it for them. So Jason asked what's in it for the customer. And what he realized was he needed to show what's in it for his colleagues. What's in it for them to share their passion and expertise. So he created this program, this deck, and he went around to all the organizations in HR and sales and operations. He said, share your passions and your expertise with the world. And if you do, I can show you it's going to grow your connections, you're going to build your personal brand, and it'll help you to achieve career success wherever that may take you. So don't do it because I'm asking you to, do it because it's good for you. Share what you know and share what you love with the world. Make an impact. That impact is good for you. And it's good for us as well. So Jason went first. He decided to start writing things like how to deal with a narcissist at work. Does anybody want to know how to deal with a narcissist at work? Yeah? You have to stroke their ego. That's the answer to the question. Stroke their ego. Just in case you're wondering, maybe you have a narcissist in your workplace. He went to his friend Alex, who was in HR, and she started writing content as well. And then they went to Sean, who's in sales, and he started writing content as well. So they decided to come up with a commitment. They were each going to write 1 or 2 articles every single month. And in doing so, they reached millions and millions of people. They generated tens of thousands of clicks and engagement on their content. They started answering their customers' questions. And those answers started to show results for the company. So Jason's a California rock and roll guy. I asked him, 3 people, 3 posts a month, 63 million impressions, 167,000 clicks. But it's like, Jason, where's the ROI, man? And he's like, well, I can't tell you the number, but it generated tons of pipe, dude. Tons of pipe. So by asking what's in it for the customer, Jason realized he needed his employees, his fellow employees on board. And that generated massive impact for the organization, or as he said, tons of pipe. So what if you started asking what's in it for the customer? Are you showing what's in it for your colleagues to be an important part of your organization and the impact that they're creating for you? Ask what's in it for the customer, show what's in it for your colleagues, and you'll be able to demonstrate growth and innovation for your companies and your customers' companies as well. The point of this story is that your employees are your greatest assets. Your employees, or the employees of your customers, are their greatest assets. Or as Brian said, if you take care of people, they take care of the business. If you help your customers take care of their people, your customers' employees will take care of your customers' business as well. Do you have a mission that reflects what Xenium did and Anne? Develop great employers. To develop great employers. The why of what you do is so much more important than the what. Champion leaders transform their organizations by putting people at the center of everything. So I've told a few stories, but this is really a story all about you. You're the hero of my presentation, not the people that I had up on the screen. You know, the world is changing, and it's changing fast. It's disrupting businesses just like yours in a dramatic way. We live in this experience economy. We have different expectations for the brands we buy from and the companies that we work for. Your customers are waging a war for talent and for customers. The whole nature, the very idea of work is changing and changing fast. Most employees are not engaged. Your customers' employees are largely not engaged. Your customers want growth and ROI and innovation. You talk about what you do, but we need to start talking about and communicating the why of what you do, your mission and your purpose. And HR is becoming much more important than most people realize. In fact, it's the key to growth and innovation. So you know better than me what the services are around the future of work, but I'm sure it includes things like the employee experience, the talent experience. Are you a great place to work? Is your customer a great place to work? Continuous reviews, remote work policies, and you see the list. On and on it goes. Do you offer services and support and consulting for your clients around these areas of the future of work? All right, so I said the hero of this story is you, and it's early in the morning, and maybe you need some more coffee, so I'm going to ask you to stand up, please. We're going to do a little positive affirmation, if you don't mind. All right, so raise your hand. The hero of the story is you, right? Are you going to tell a different story? Okay. Can you define your why? Can you put your people first? Will you ask what's in it for the customer? Will you ask what's in it for your colleagues? Will you show what's in it for your company? And can you create great employers? Well, then give yourself a round of applause. Thank you.